Right now, we'll bring in Mike Cozzi. Morning, Mike.
Good morning.
So yesterday I did hang around the house, and I watched the first game and the second game of the Yankee-Baltimore doubleheader. And I think one of the great things about sports and one of the weird things about sports is weird things happen. Gleyber Torres has 25 home runs this season, 13 against the Orioles. He has like 75 or 80 runs batted in, almost 50 against the Orioles. And ever since, 2 series ago, Gary Thorne has been saying they should just pitch around him. And what's to explain what happens, Mike, it's not that you're a former pitcher. So how does this, how does something like this develop where one little weird things like this happens?
Well, it's not a little weird thing.
Okay.
Good hitters fatten up on bad pitching, and you can't get much worse than the Orioles. That was like when I went to high school and we played this real bad school called Lincoln High School where everybody got 4 hits in the game and the game lasted 3 innings. That's the Baltimore Orioles. They stink. And the Orioles are fools because they continue to pitch to this guy. I'm not saying to hit him, but you pitch around him. You make him chase bad pitches. You don't give him anything to hit. The Orioles are just a bad organization. I mean, awful. Bad's an understatement. You can't let this guy continue to put you into the coals. Like you mentioned his numbers. I would venture to say that's like 70% of his offense has come against the Orioles.
They say it's a little over 50%. A little over 50%.
You can't let this guy continue to beat the heck out of you. You pitch around him. You don't pitch to him with guys on base. You make him chase bad pitches. He's going to swing at it because he's a free swinger. He's not real disciplined at the plate. Make him hit your pitch. But these guys continue to pitch him middle in, and he keeps on blasting home runs against them.
After the third home run, Gary Thorne said, I just don't understand why they don't put up a 4 and just completely ignore this guy. And the last time he came up, they did that. And it was
it took them, like 17 games to realize that?
It's unbelievable. Oh, well. So anyway, so the marathons, they got souped up balls again because the Yankees won 11-8, and they won earlier 8-5, and then Toronto beat Texas 19-4.
There were 8 games yesterday. I already did the math. There was 129 runs scored in 8 games.
Yeah, Pittsburgh 10, the Angels 2, Tampa Bay 10, San Diego 4.
That's 16 runs per game.
Amazing.
The titleists were back out in force after the weekend.
And the Red Sox lost on a walk-off. Wow, again.
Yeah, well, they tied the game up.
Yep.
In the top of the 9th. I was watching that game, and it looked good for him. And then the first guy up, who won the game for the Indians on Saturday with a walk-off grand slam, did it again last night. This time was a solo shot. Santana.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to take for them to. Their season's really over. I mean, they're 9 games out in the wild card. No. They're almost 18 games out. Their season's done.
They can keep on selling snake oil to the people thinking that they have a shot, but they have no shot. They can't string together wins. They have to win like 8 out of 10 games consistently for the rest of the year. They can't do it.
Yeah, they just don't have the pitching staff. Just don't have it this year. The starters are having problems, and the bullpen's terrible. It's just
They never got out of the funk.
Yeah, never. All right. Well, that's a portion of the sports. Where else do you want to go in sports?
Staying with baseball, the Mets continued today after an off day yesterday. They go to Atlanta and play the first-place team in the National League East. And like we were saying about the Boston having to play good, the Mets need to play good. The Mets have the hardest schedule for the rest of the season out of any of the teams in the wild card race. And to get in, they're going to have to earn it. If the Mets get there, they're definitely going to earn their way in. So there's going to be no shortcuts, no easy path for the Mets to make it. They have to do it. They have to beat these teams if they expect to make the postseason. So,
and they're one of those teams like the Mets, and Cleveland are going to cause a lot of problems in the postseason.
Well, Cleveland's they've really turned it around.
I'm just going to say that with their pitching staffs and their bullpens, if their bullpens act okay, they really are going to be dangerous teams in the tournament. They really are.
Well, Cleveland's lineup is much more seasoned and more explosive than the Mets.
Yeah.
Ramirez, who was an MVP candidate last year, was playing absolutely horrible, and now he's hitting the cover off the ball. So with him being hot and Lindor being back and Santana hitting, they got a lot of depth. They, like we went over yesterday, with the runs for and runs against with Cleveland, they have the lowest runs against out of any team that's trying to make it into the playoffs with a 3.9. So that's in the day of the titleist, 3.9 runs against you per game is an unbelievable number. So, like I told my friend over the weekend, I was watching the game, and Cleveland took 2 right away from Minnesota early in the series. They said Minnesota's out of first place and they're never going to get back in it. So Cleveland will not be playing for a wild card spot. They're going to win the division, and Minnesota's going to have to fend themselves into the wild card. And with Minnesota, you go to the other end of the spectrum. They have the most runs for per game with 5.7, but they give up the most runs per game with 4.6 out of the American League teams that are in contention. So they're going to try to outslug people, and even if they make it into the playoffs, that's not the way you can win in the playoffs.
Yeah, not at all. All right,
but it's interesting to say the least.
All right, you got to say that. Any racing today for you or no?
Saratoga's closed.
So nothing. Bupkis. We got Bupkis there.
Today's Tuesday. Yep.
Well, I just want you to know the following that I've got a golf story for you. Okay.
What? The Tiger Woods quit?
No. It's even better than that. And you've
been ducking that one.
You're not a golfing person, but there's a golfer by the name of Chambly. Okay.
Rochambeau, who?
Brian. I think it's Brian Chambly.
Chambly.
Yeah. In golf, I don't know if you've been out with your friend. If in the beginning when you learn to play golf, people say we don't mind bad golfers, but we don't like slow golfers. Okay. In golf, people don't like to wait around 5 minutes in between shots. Well, there's a 45 to 50 second rule that on the PGA Tour between shots, right? Once you get to where the ball is. Well, this guy takes anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes. And finally, the players, after this last tournament that happened this weekend, a whole bunch of players came out and said, "You got to do something about this guy."
Is he any good?
He's decent, but he's not decent enough where he can do that. And at first he was pretty arrogant about it, but then this morning he released a statement saying that he was going to improve his pace of play.
3 to 7 minutes per shot.
He was taking just it was an unbelievable time, yeah. And so people at other tees were waiting to tee off because you don't really tee off when somebody is still on before they're on the green. So when you get you would say you get 5 or 10 minutes behind the group in front of you, that means every group in back of you is like a car backs up even more than that. Mm-hmm. It's just like on the highway. So
back when I used to play a little golf, that's the reason why I stopped playing golf. When I used to go to Florida and play, 3 hours max, you were done with 18 holes. When you come play in New Jersey, 5 hour minimum to play 18 holes. Yeah. I don't have 5 hours to waste hitting a little ball in the woods.
No, you should be done with your golf, and depending on how your foursome is, in anywhere from 2 hours and 50 minutes to 3 hours and 10 minutes, 3 hours and 20 minutes.
That's the way it is in Florida.
Yeah, that's it's just the way it should be. So,
but up here, 5 hours to play around the golf.
It's the first thing I was taught by my friends. We don't care how bad you are, just don't be slow.
Back when I played and I sucked. No, there's no other way of putting it. After a while, I just pick up the ball and say, "All right, I'm done with this hole. Let's go." That's it. I mean, how many shots you going to hit on a hole? 8, 9?
But that's what I did the first year and a half, 2 years I played. And whenever I ran into a problem, I just picked up the ball and went to the next hole. And
that's it.
And that's how I learned the game. So,
now, this guy's a pro that's extending his game.
Yeah, amazing.
Well,
All right.
It is golf. Like I say, 50,000 people screaming and you're trying to hit a 98-mile-an-hour fastball as opposed to utter silence and you're hitting a stationary ball on the ground in front of you. I can't figure that out.
All right. I'll check with you tomorrow.
Have a great day, guys.
Mike Cozzi with a check on sports this morning here on The Breakfast Club.